There's everybody jumping on our Zoom today. Awesome. How are you loving this weather? Is this not so fantastic? That's a middle-aged woman. I'm a big fan. Okay, so I'm going to get myself organized here. We've got some people entering into our Zoom conference together. This is very exciting. I want to thank you all for being here. Let's just check the time. It's exactly 1 o'clock, so we are going to get started. Okay. Want to make sure I'm going to exit this out and just let's start. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sharon Parenteau, and I am just so excited to share with you today's webinar. It's a lot of fun to put this together and to adapt what we normally do in in-person seminars to now the webinar format. And I have to tell you that it was really motivational for me to find a lot of great material to bring to you today. And you're going to have a ton of ideas thrown at you, but don't despair. You will be getting a copy of this PowerPoint to go back and review. So just sit back and enjoy. It's a very visual presentation because staging is really a very visual practice. So I want to make sure that you get an idea. It's going to say a lot more than words, but you know that I'm also never at a lack of words. So and the other thing we're going to do is send you some resources afterwards, okay? So you're going to have lots of great stuff to learn from, but let's get started. So this is me. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams, and as part of my community outreach and door knocking practice, I had a lot of people who were asking me questions, and I heard the same questions a lot. So I thought, rather than me doing like one off and one off and one off, why not kind of bring it together and work with my skill set as a former educator to really present up-to-date knowledge that will benefit my future clients. So that's what we decided to do. And I have to tell you, in a few of our first listing presentations where I'd meet with clients and discuss their needs and kind of tell them what I was going to do, I got quite a bit of pushback about staging. When I started my career, it wasn't that common. And now it is, as we say, ubiquitous. And lots of people didn't really understand why it was necessary. It felt like an unnecessary expense. And even as short ago as 10 years, when I purchased this home that I'm in now, it wasn't staged. It was just enough to make it clean. You were happy if you just decluttered. But I'm going to tell you that the bar has been set quite a bit higher. So let's get into it. So here's the order of today. We do have some people who are joining us in part 2 who were not there for part 1. And part 1 is kind of more the philosophy and why it's necessary, and also kind of the hard, cold economics of it. Because in real estate, I'm never going to suggest you do something just as a make work project. It always comes down through the filter of a make money project. Okay, and that's the only real legitimate reason that you can justify doing any change to your home, is that it's going to result in success in the 2 markers that count, and that is time on the market being as low as possible and final sale price as being high as possible, right? So that's what we're aiming for. So we're going to go through the what's of staging and the whys, and then today we're going to get really into the how, the practical application. And these are all things you can do yourself, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time looking at pictures and kind of deconstructing them together so we can see what was changed. Okay, so let's get started. So I know that lots of your husbands out here in webinar land think that this is what we mean by staging. And, you know, they're not entirely wrong, but this would be a bit of an exaggeration. We do use a lot of throw cushions, I'm not going to lie. That on the bed, the master bed, you know, oh, we're supposed to now call it the principal bedroom or the primary bedroom. So the primary bedroom gets like 17 cushions, and I'm not actually exaggerating there. So let's look at what staging is. This is an example on the right of a condo that we staged in Aurora. It's one of my favorite staging jobs. I didn't stage it. We hired a stager, and it resulted in an incredible result for my client, the highest price that a unit in that building had ever fetched. So like that's why we do this. What is staging? Well, it's the visual transformation of a property to present it well in a variety of formats. So we have to think of staging as being one element of the overall marketing plan. When do we do it? Well, we do it just before it hits the MLS. So frequently with my clients, we will sign a contract, is what we call exclusive. And that's like the coming soon contract, where nobody's allowed to see it, but it allows me to go and hire the various people who will be working on promoting the property. So it's like a placeholder contract. And then when everything is all ready, we come in, we have it staged, cleaned, photographed, and then it goes to MLS, and you get these incredible images that we can share, as we said, in a variety of formats. Why? Well, like I said, I mean, it all comes down to the bottom line, being the dollars and cents, but it's really because we are making sure that we attract your target market, and your target market is not you. The person who is likely to buy your house is not a clone of you. They're people who are in a different demographic entirely. So we want to take your home that you love and you've lived in and enjoyed, and help them to imagine themselves in it and create that first impression. It's an all-important first impression. It really, really counts. So we said your target audience are young, busy buyers who lots of times lay in bed at night and on their phone are looking at properties, dreaming of a bigger house. And what they see is either going to kind of attract them or repel them. So obviously we want the first. How are we going to do this? Well, we want to create an image that is broadly appealing. And it's so funny, when I was looking through previous listings, we can see that there is kind of a fashion trend that gets reflected in the staging, and it's changed a little bit. So I was looking back at previous properties, and I don't know that if we staged them now the way we staged them then, that it would be as broadly appealing. So we have to change with the times, and that's one of the huge advantages, is that no matter when you sell your house, we are capturing what is considered to be a little bit fashionable, for lack of a better term. We also want your property to stand out from the competition. And for that, we need very clear photographs that people can really see, that are light and bright, and really showcase your property's best features. And we also want to create a wow effect, because when you think of it, people who are searching online, they have created a search criteria based on location, number of bedrooms, the price. So all of that is kind of all checked. The boxes have been checked off. That's really like the left brain thinking. Well, now we want to create an emotional connection to your property so that they'll actually, seriously consider it and come out and have a look at it, right? We also are creating a story, and I put story in quotes because it's a visual story. There's got to be a coherence, a cohesive coming together, and a consistent look from picture to picture to picture. That's the ideal. We don't always achieve it, and we're always like, within 80% of creating these results for our clients. It's not always 100%, but we really want to make sure that we're able to drop these same images into video or still photography or printed feature sheets or just listed postcards. Like, it really has to cross the different media. And sometimes we have a vacant property or a partly vacant property, in which case we're talking about a full stage, and that is bringing in everything: couches, chairs, tables, pictures for the walls, mirrors for the front hall, lamps, rugs, every little tchotchke we bring in to a vacant home. And you can imagine that each thing we bring in, first of all, has a cost associated with the item, but also the labor associated with bringing it in and setting it up. So staging can run the gamut from like a full house vacant stage, which we do for like investor clients who have purchased and renovated to flip, all the way down to where we're really just doing a fluff and puff with, that's what I call it, with your existing home. Most of the time it requires like a pretty heavy editing of your possessions and your furniture, but it's kind of, that's the spectrum. It can range all the way from, as I said, full home staging where we're renting furniture, to accessorizing, to where we're just really kind of working with what we've got. And of course that really affects price. Who does the staging? Well, in 85 to 95% of the time, it's a professional staging company, because it is incredibly hard work. It's like a little mini move. It really is, to bring all that stuff in and to set it up and to put pictures on the wall. It's a team effort with the staging company. It's not just the person who comes in and gives you the consultation. They have a ton of assistants, and they hire a moving truck for the day. And it's, at the minimum, it's about a 4 to 6 hour ordeal. And then at the maximum, it can be like 8 to 10 hours. So, you know, it really is a transformation, and that takes time. Okay, so let's move on and just remember why we have to do this. This is, I've already explained to you, and you're starting to get a picture that this is a big deal. This is a big investment of your time and energy. So why do we do this? Well, it's because of how people buy homes today. It's not anything other than that we want to make sure that we capture them where they are, and where they are is online. And so it used to be when you bought a house, or maybe you would go into a sales office and you looked at the plans and you laid out in your mind and all of that. And that's not the way it happens now. It happens online. And if they don't like your home compared to what else is available, they just swipe on by. They look at it and they make kind of instant evaluation as to whether or not this is going to be a ton of work, whether this is well priced. All of those kind of value assertions are made on a conscious and unconscious level. So we want to really strike while they're there and capture them as a potential buyer lead. So those buyers are wanting to move up, but the one thing they don't have a lot of is time. So they're always battling between getting the home at the lowest price and the best condition. And those two polarities are held in tension. So of course, a home that looks good to them, even if it's kind of a superficial look good, is going to be more appealing than something that is as dated as it might be. I'll just give you a very brief example. We had a client recently whose kitchen was 30 years old, completely original, and it looked it. So we knew that whoever came into the home was going to tear out the kitchen and redo it. It just was a given. At that price point, that's what people's expectation would be, is to have a nice, shiny new kitchen. But even still, we requested, and he was very gracious and did it. We asked him to paint out the kitchen cabinets because they were yellowing melamine. They were originally white, but with age they had yellowed, and it was just going to be an obstacle. It was just going to be something that people couldn't see themselves actually even living in the place while they renovated it. So that happened, and I'm not saying that that was the only contributing factor to a successful sale, but it really did help. Right? We at least were able to capture pictures of the kitchen that looked somewhat contemporary. So this is how your buyer shops. They find everything online, and they make the decision whether or not to go the next step and come out and see the property when they are very, very serious, especially under today's COVID shutdown kind of criteria. We do get people coming to see homes, but they are choosing between home A and home B. And where did that process start? Back at home on their phone or on their computer. So this is an example of a property. I showed it the last time in our previous first part of this seminar. This was a home that was listed on Center Street in Richmond Hill. And this was actually on the market for more than a year, with the pictures on the left as being the MLS picture. You can see that, you know, these were older people. They were in their early 70s, and this was even very, very pared down from them. They had already decluttered, but the basic furnishings were still sending a message that this home is old and tired and needs a refresh. And then when I took over the listing, we staged it, and you can just see that the picture on the right is just so much more appealing to the buyer who ended up purchasing while we had the listing. Okay, so it's the difference between real life and marketing, and as I mentioned, it's all part of the overall marketing campaign. This here is a little video. We showed it last time. I just wanted to remind you that your home has to look good no matter where we show it. And just to put the nail on the, hit the nail in the head here, this is why we do it. There is no doubt that staging helps for a quicker sale at a higher price. It's measurable, and realtors in the United States surveyed that they felt that it would net between 1 and I think 20% in terms of improving the overall sale price of the home. I can't imagine anybody losing money as a result of staging. It's not even in the cards, I don't think. Okay, so how does it do this? These are our basic principles of staging, is that it increases your buyer's approval rate by creating a home impression that is number one. This is number one thing, is light and bright. And you're going to see what this means to your home in a second. We want to create as much spaciousness as possible. So I was at a listing presentation earlier this week, and they said, wow, we're going to paint the walls. Do you want the art back up? And I said, no, not because I don't like your art, but we want to see as much unbroken eye line of wall as possible. We'll come back and put up a few pieces, but not typically as many as people have in their homes, because it just breaks up the visual sense of it being a spacious home. Same thing with area rugs. We want to make sure that we're creating a natural traffic flow through the various spaces, especially since it's going to be large groups of people who come to see your home. Now, in my dining room, like, I have 6 chairs around it. So one of the things I would do is that I would take out 2 of those chairs so that people could pass by easily and not feel like their pathway was obstructed. Okay, so we have to plan for that. And then if there's ever a room like I'm sitting in now, which is supposed to be a bedroom that is now my office, we always suggest that you restore it back to its original function. If your home is a 4-bedroom home, that's a huge selling point. We want it to be a 4-bedroom home if possible. I mean, sometimes it's just absolutely impossible, but if there's a way to move that office down to the basement or another room that is more suited to it, this especially goes for the master bedroom. The master bedroom should not have anything except master bedroom in it. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. And then we also, as I said, want to create that feeling of calm, tranquility, a little bit of a spark of something, but, you know, definitely not the way we normally live. Okay, I can tell you from experience that my home, if I was to take a snapshot of my living room, the feeling I'm not, you know, might be a little more stress than we would want in a marketing package. Okay, so here's a prime example from our real life staging of a condo. And this was an older woman. These are all the same basic pieces of furnishing, but some of the things that we've brought in were different lamps and, different lamps. And we just really accessorized to bring out the light and bright and make sure that, like even notice we took off her lace tablecloth because there was a much more harmonious feel. And it helps the table to kind of recede into the background so that what you're really paying attention to is how spacious it is. Okay, so obviously these are different camera angles, but that's also important. You need to have a realtor who has an excellent real estate photographer working with them, because I'm going to tell you, it should be against the law for realtors to use cell phone photos, and I see them all the time. It should, that should be somehow that you lose your license, because you're not doing your clients a service by presenting a picture on the left. You really are going to get a much better result with pictures like we have on the right. And we did. We had, I can't remember if it was 8 or 11 offers, $50,000 over asking. And that was just a little 1+1 condo. So you can imagine how thrilled my client was. Okay, so you know why, you know when, you know what you're trying to achieve. Let's get into some specifics about how. Okay, this is going to be really where the rubber hits the road. So we're going to start at the exterior of your home. I want you to walk up your front driveway with an eye as if you were a buyer. And we're going to want to really make sure that it's spick and span in terms of the lawn and the weeds and the interlock, all of that. Like, we really want to make sure that it looks well taken care of from the get-go. I have literally been in the car with clients, buyer clients, and we've pulled up and we slowed down and we stopped, and then we kept going because the house was so ill kept in the front that we thought, geez, what's it going to be like inside? Never mind. This is just, you know. So if you have window frames or wooden ledges to your windows that are peeling paint, you really need to fix those. And then I have this little pet peeve about the $1 million house with the rusty mailbox. So, you know, just invest in a little bit of brass polish or a new mailbox. You can spray paint them. Make sure that the garage, the weather stripping on the bottom of the garage door isn't, you know, flapping in the wind. All those just kind of things, because you're creating that first impression. Some nice, fresh, colorful flowers in your front garden or a pot on your porch, all of those things. Just even a very thorough cleaning of the screen and the windows and the little side light, all of that will do such a great improvement to the exterior, what we call curb appeal of your home, right? So even a new doormat, like all of that, it's what, $100 in total, plus some elbow grease, and you're really going to find your home sparkles and welcomes people. So let's just see what I mean. The left is a wooden door that's obviously been, you know, battered and bruised, like so many of our front doors. And what I just love is there's not any real change. It's still a very traditional style, but we've got this very, very striking dark gray paint, and it just looks classic. I'm not a fan of the little pumpkin or whatever is on that burgundy thing, not necessary, but you can just see what a big transformation that makes. Same door. You don't have to replace your door. There are lots of people right now who are replacing garage doors and front doors, and I think that really does add to the curb appeal, but that's thousands of dollars, and today's was about being on a shoestring budget, right? So let's just stick with that. Same thing on the right. We've got the curb appeal greatly enhanced by recladding the porch and, you know, lots of foundational planting. You don't even have to go that far. Like, that's a lot of work and money too. If you are up to it, terrific, let's do it. But even if you eliminated the row of boxwoods that are up the front path, if you just did some of the hostas and the yellow flowers, cleaned up the flower bed, you can just see how much that would improve it. So just like a car, we don't try to sell a car when it's got salt stains and coffee rings, and we take it and make sure that it's been nicely detailed. We do the same thing to the front of the house. So as we come in the front entrance, one thing that I have noticed is that a lot of my sellers have little bits and bobs all over their front foyer area. They might have a shoe rack. They might have an umbrella stand. They might have a bench. I get it. This is the way you live. That's real life. But that's not the way we sell houses. So as much as possible, we take everything off the floor in the front hall. And even in your front hall closet, people do open up closets. So store away your non-seasonal clothes, the ones that are, you're probably going to pack when you move anyway. And most of the time, I'm not a fan of a lot of artwork in the front. What I really like is a little demi-lune table at the front hall, a place where we can put the feature sheet and agents can leave their business cards, and a mirror. I think that is just so classic and helps to reflect the light, and it's a really nice impression. So let's look at our front hall. So I said the front hall mirror. Well, this is not what I meant. This is like for the back of a bedroom door or something. You can just see how, I don't know, raggedy this looks. I can't think of another word. We never want anything on the stairs. Never. You got little kids going up and down to look at the house. And I am not a fan of photo galleries up the stairways either. I think nothing should be on the walls. It just is so much cleaner and brighter and more open. You can see that they've done more than just that, but isn't that like a welcoming little vista? Like that's really nice. It's proportionate to the size. It's a little vignette, and that's what staging really involves, is a lot of these little vignettes where you get the perfect proportioned piece, that things are in relation to each other. The way I explain it to my clients when we're staging is that they kind of talk to each other, where these are completely unrelated on the left. The ones on the right, they look like a collection, and they look like they belong. Okay, so they've done some other things too that you can spy out, but I really like this as a learning point, to have nothing on your stairs or on the walls up your stair, and to have a little place where agents can leave their cards when they view your home. Okay, let's get into the kitchen. Kitchens sell homes. And as such, we want to keep everything in the kitchen to a minimum. I don't know how to explain this other than to say, it's almost like we don't want any remembrance that people really use the kitchen. Okay, like obviously we're not going to have dishes in the sink or anything. But again, it's about keeping the surfaces clear so that you have as much counter space as possible. Many of us also have kitchen curtains up or blinds. First of all, the blinds need to be pulled up, and lots of times I ask my clients to take down the kitchen curtains, unless there's a privacy issue, but most of the time it's not, because even a set of side drapes, they really cut back on the amount of light. And remember that our number one goal is light and bright. And number two goal is about being spacious. So we don't want anything that's going to break up the floor. So no area rugs. Like my mom, and I'm sure many of us, we have a little kitchen slice. We call it like a half circle rug in front of the sink while we're doing our dishes. No, it's got to go, because it breaks up the floor space. And I never think that there's a good reason to have a tea towel on the oven handle. So just take it all down. And if you've got a plate collection or anything on top of your cabinets, take them down as well. Okay, so even if you have chair pads on your chairs, take them off. everything just completely stripped down to be clean, basic, very minimal. I want to show you some examples. Okay, so like obviously some of you've seen this picture before. Nobody would suggest that you would sell your home like on the left, right? But you'd be shocked how many pictures I see not far from this. So people always ask me about their kitchen appliances. Like you might right now have your stand mixer, your coffee maker, your panini press, your little jar of utensils, your kitchen, you know, your spoons and wooden spoons and all that. Coffee pods, like, you know what, if you look around, you have probably a lot of things that you don't use. Oh, toaster ovens. I say to people, you can have one or two. The one that you use the most, like the coffee maker, that's fine. But coffee maker and the nightstand and the spice rack and the utensil jar, it's too much. It's too much. It just breaks up the image and it makes it seem like you don't have very much counter space where you might. This is a joke. Do you see? This is a joke that I've shared with some of you. See the 3 bottles of sparkling water in the corner? My joke has been that to stage a kitchen, all you need is 3 bottles of sparkling water and a bowl of limes, and your house is going to sell, because we see it over and over and over again. It's almost like a staging trope that we have the bottles of sparkling water in the corner. The other thing we have is, this is a new one, where they have a cookbook open by the stove and maybe like a nice earthenware bowl with a spoon, like they were just making cookies and you happen to come in and see the house. It's kind of funny, but it does create kind of like a setting. So let's look at another example. So here's a really, really dramatic difference. When we talk about pulling out the brown furniture and putting in something that's glass or light, like you can see why. Like it's just so much more spacious and inviting. They've also taken down the curtains. It looks like they've taken them down just about before they were ready to fall down. So that's a good thing, because that walkout is a huge selling feature. Part of the flow of staging your home is that we want to make sure that nothing is obstructing windows or doorways or patio doors, like none of that, right? So I don't know what that is on the table. It almost looks like it's maybe a bread maker or maybe a printer. I don't know what it is, but when we stage a home, one of the big things about that little splash of green on the table is that it pulls the outside green into the house. And it just really subtly emphasizes the fact that, you know, this is a beautiful natural setting and just lets in so much more light, right? So sometimes we swap out kitchen tables and we bring in something glass. Sometimes we do, but lots of times we can work with your basic furniture, but just kind of do some other workarounds. So let's look at this picture on the left. These are the kind of things we like to see in a kitchen. Apothecary jars with colorful beans or lentils or pasta. We like a little bit of greenery. We like color coordinated dish sets and a little bit of sparkle, maybe a little bit, not too much, but just look at the top picture. This is exactly the way my kitchen would look if this was my kitchen. It's got a dish rack in the sink. It's got, you know, photos on the fridge. First of all of that clutter has to go. And you see what we have. I want you to look at the window in the bottom picture, how we've got those 3 little green things, probably from Winners, probably fake. But what they do is they pull your eye into that space. And it's almost like you, with a little bit of green dotted around the kitchen, it's almost like you look past that island. And they've also painted it out a darker color. One other thing I want to point to in this picture that I think they've done very well is that obviously on the far right, there is some kind of breakfast nook there where you could sit. And in the first picture, they don't have any stools, but in the second picture, they do. This is very important, that if there's a function which is a really big benefit. Like, you need to emphasize that. So even if you're not sitting at your overhang of your counter, we always want to put 2 or 3 little stools there to show the potential of making what we call a breakfast bar. Okay. So this, I think, is a really, really effective change up of the kitchen, and emphasizes the nice features. And it's, you know, they haven't done very much of anything other than paint the island. So some of the kitchens that I saw where people are staging them, it's not really staging, it's like a total remodel. I'm not suggesting that. Let's work with what you've got, but it does look like they may have painted. I'm not sure, but regardless, the principle remains the same. A little bit of an accent color, but very, very clean lines. Okay, so now we have the living room. Again, we're hearing the same things over again, but this is just to reinforce that we really want to make sure that in the living room, nothing is obstructing traffic. I got to say it again. Y'all have a love affair with occasional chairs. How many people are you expecting in your living room? So lots of homes I go into, they have the 3-seater sofa, they have a 2-piece love seat, and they have 2, maybe more occasional chairs with a table in between them. That's too much furniture. I usually say keep the 3-seater sofa, put the love seat in in another room if you need it, or B, out in the garage. And then we pull up all those little occasional tables and just have two side tables, 2 end tables, and a coffee table, and that's it. No little magazine baskets, no little tea trolleys, nothing. Because it really does pull the room in the more stuff you have in it. And a lot of times, if you have hardwood floors in your living room, we really want to emphasize that. And if we have a heavily patterned carpet, your eye is drawn to that carpet, not to the floors, which are a big selling feature. So we lots of times either roll up the carpet and store it away for you, or we bring in something different. But the carpet is a great way to instantly spark up an updated look. It's interesting that lamps have changed. I mean, only to me, maybe it's interesting. Maybe you don't find it interesting at all, but most of us have lamps with kind of this shade. The very, very common modern line is more like a barrel shade. So even taking your existing lamps and changing out the shade shape can make a huge difference, and just bringing it up to date. So let's look at some examples. Now, this is a really extreme example, right? This looks like it should be the Markham Museum or something. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against antiques. I have an antique dining set. I have some antique furniture from my grandparents. I love the natural wood look, but guess what? It doesn't matter what I like. What it matters is what your buyer likes. And let's just look at this room. This is a great example of a modern update. Like, obviously this is a full staging, but I'm going to guess that not too many of you have Victorian era type furniture, Victorian reproduction furniture. Let's just see what we could do. Okay, taking the room on the left, number one, we're getting rid of the 4-foot tall lamps, even though they have a barrel shade. All the crystal danglies on them really put them into the 1970s, maybe even earlier. So let's get those out. I think the lamps on the right, the after picture, are a little bit short, but whatever. It's not my doing. The other thing we're going to make sure is that we take down the wedding photos here. We don't want personal photos. It makes buyers feel like they're intruding into your personal space, and which I know they are, right? But regardless, we want to take them down. And the representational art of that kind of older style, that's also going to come down. Now, just look at what a dramatic difference opening up the curtains makes. Many of us have expensive custom-made curtains with shears and side panels and swags and jabots and all that heavy. It reduces the light by like 40 or 50%. So let's open up those and show, first of all, what is a really big selling feature, this gorgeous picture window. So unless you have a really ugly view, in which case we'll just keep the shears. What is a much more modern look are panel curtains on a rod. Okay, so I mean, not every time can we install that, but just in general, if you have heavy drapery, let's get rid of the over treatment and just keep the under treatment, okay, for the reasons we've already said. The other thing I notice is this patterned rug. In every picture you take, there is kind of like a focal point that we're trying to achieve. And this carpet really, along with the patterned furniture, is really, really dominating the space. So, you know, I'm not suggesting that in every room we have to go ultra modern like it is on the right, but you can see that just by doing a few other little things, we could pull this into at least this century. Okay, so we've staged homes like this, and you know, it's a bit of a challenge. We actually staged a home up in Aurora that had a lot of antiques in it, and we managed to bring it much more contemporary looking by adding throw cushions and throws. Like we took this basic couch, and what we did was we covered up as much of it with throw cushions, and then we used a nice color coordinated faux fur, and it actually looked quite opulent rather than just dated. So there we go. There are ways of getting around it, but this is an extreme, right? An extreme between Markham Museum and something that looks like it could be the furniture shop. So this is a house that we staged, and again, we used the client's furniture. That squared off kind of sofa was in a different room. We moved it around. We brought in some tables. Those chairs were in another room. We brought them in, and her curtains were really heavy and dominated the room because visually they were like a double wide curtain, plus she had extra panels. So even just by opening it up, and if you see into that dining room, this was the one room that she did not paint out to a more neutral color, and we said she could keep it. It was, you know, whatever. There's only so much we can do, but again, she had heavy shears behind it, and we just left the swag. So to open it up, did our best, and it created a very, very impressive image. So I like this room a lot, and it really had this kind of luxury feel, but without being too overdone. I don't like it when it's like too much. An unusual placement of the pictures too, like this room has some interest. Mostly using her existing furniture pulled in from other rooms. Okay, these are two other living rooms that we staged, and the one on the left was a very, very narrow space. It was narrow but long, and it was difficult to show kind of the different zones. Like in every room, there's kind of a different zone. So we wanted to make sure that we put a little club chair down by the window, and it just helped to pull everything together. Also, this room, when we first encountered it, had very, very heavy tapestries and silk weaving that had been mounted from India. And so you can imagine that that was quite dark. And one of the big things we wanted to do was to transform it by making it light and bright. So those tables that you see there and the lamps with the wire bases to them, all of this just created an openness. And we got rid of the heavy brown furniture coffee tables, and that made a big, big difference in neutralizing the space and just creating that spaciousness. And on the right, again, this is the client's furniture shuffled around. She also, in this room, when we encountered it, had a huge forest green sectional sofa, which she wasn't moving anyway. So she put it out on the curb and somebody came and picked it up. So she wasn't going to be taking it with her. She was moving to a condo. So we took this sofa that, again, was in a different room, and we created a much more open space. And again, we see the placement of large light colored carpets as a way of opening up the room. So she was very, very impressed. This room had been a much stronger color. And so as part of her preparation, she did actually paint it out. And when it all came together, it just looked like it belonged, like everything looked like it belonged together. And she was very pleased. Okay, dining rooms. Here's something you can do right away. We're going to pull out all of the leaves of the table so that when it's collapsed down, you have much more room to walk through. That's a huge, little clue for you there. And a lot of times, like I said, sorry, but we're going to probably roll up your carpet. Just because lots of times a pattern carpet, as you can see, the carpets we've been using are all very, very neutral, but a pattern carpet will dominate any picture that it's in. So we want to make sure that what we're really focusing on is the room and not the carpet. So we're going to do that. We're also going to take down most of your art. And one of my favorite little tips is to have a mirror in the dining room rather than art. I just love to have like the server. If you have a buffet and a server, we put the mirror over the server, and it helps to reflect the light, and we can just artfully stage just the ends of that. And if you do have a cabinet, a china cabinet, most of the time it seems to be very overfilled, I find. So we want to take out between 50 and 70% of what's in the china cabinet and just leave the very nicest pieces. So lots of times a china cabinet is divided into thirds with a shelf in each. So in total, it's almost like you've got 9 boxes. And if you were to have lovely coordinated 1 or 2 pieces per box, that's a really good kind of ratio. And so it still is open and light. Maybe it's on one shelf you have 1 or 2 little Royal Daltons, maybe you have a piece of silver or a nice sparkly crystal vase, whatever, but it's not, should not be chock-a-block full. It just creates this wall, and it creates clutter. And I'm gonna say no artificial flowers. I know this is so funny. We sometimes do bring in artificial flowers. Like one of the favorite things for a bathroom is one of those fake, what do they call them? The fake flowers that are orchids, yes. And so I did tell somebody no fake flowers, and then the stager brought in orchids, and she was looking at me like, I thought you said no fake flowers. But there are fake flowers and there are fake flowers, okay? So we just, in general, if you've got vases on the floor or little other things on the floor, all those little pieces that are not part of the primary dining set, they probably should go. And a lot of times what we do is, like in this case, this is a total redo, different furniture entirely. Like I actually don't mind the side piece, but the problem is that the furniture that's here is obstructing a major selling feature, and that's the fireplace. So they've opted for a smaller set, taking it from 6-seater down to 4-seater, and you can see that by putting that black mirror over the mantle, it immediately draws your eye to that. So rather than being attracted to the art, which you may or may not like, let's just pull your eye down to what are the unchangeable features. So you see that even in the china cabinet there, it looks like it's built-in shelving, but because there's a lot of dark things in it, even though it's nicely presented or whatever, I still think it looks nicer in the bottom picture where it's all lighter things. A little bit of sparkle, fine. Okay, so this is an example of a dining room that has been rejigged to create, remember, the broad appeal. If you have very specific taste in art, that's wonderful. That's great. And we're not trying to criticize your art. It's just, what do buyers want? And buyers aren't focusing on the beautiful red painting. We want them to focus on the fireplace beneath it. Make sense? Okay. Here's some more dining room pictures. And I'm including this one on the left because it's such a great example of keeping the basic furniture, but just bringing in new chairs. That makes such a huge difference. It's the same room. We have accessorized it a little bit differently, a different selection of art. We've cleared off the buffet and put a little bit more contemporary pieces on it. But 80% of this room is the way it was. It's just that final little bit of tweaking. I do not like tablecloths on tables. I almost never suggest them. That runner, again, that's really great to create that light look that we're looking for. But the walls haven't changed. The dining room table and the buffet server haven't changed. None of that has changed. It's just an accessorizing. And I think that's a very, very effective change. On the right, there's a bit more of a change, but see that pattern carpet? That's what I'm talking about. You really, really draw your eye, and it makes the room close down along with all the wall art. So we really don't want much on the walls at all. The less, the better. This is really a case where less is more. And like, you might be surprised that the little 4-seater dining chairs there didn't stay, but they don't work. They don't work with the rest of the house. It's a very discombobulated style here. And by having the more traditional dining set there, it ties into the kitchen much, much better, so that things are working and things are the same style throughout. So it is a big improvement on the bottom. So just because the furniture's modern doesn't mean we always like it. Okay, master bedroom. So besides focusing your attention on the main floor, which is very, very important, kitchen and living room, dining room, all of this very important. The next really important room to look at is the master bedroom. And so this is when I said at the beginning, anything that is non-bedroom furniture, like a desk and a computer or a treadmill, even a TV. I'm sorry, but the TV has to go, and you're going to see why in a second. And then we always suggest that you rearrange the bed so that you can see the foot of the bed from the door. Obviously, that's not always possible, but if possible, that's what we prefer. It just photographs so much better than photographing like the side of the bed. So many pictures I see online, people think that they've tucked their junk under the bed deep enough, and when you photograph it from the side, you can see surprisingly deep under that bed, and we see lots of, like, you know, junk crammed under there in MLS photos. So that's another good reason why we want to keep at the foot of the bed and show the headboard and the 72 pillows. Right. So let's look. So this is an example I showed you last week, but this is a real example of a property that had been listed with another agent, and then we took over the listing and transformed the house. Believe it or not, this was that agent's idea of staging on the left. And really it was just a decluttering. I get it. But look, like that, first of all, that bedspread, like whether or not you like the style, it takes up so much visual space. So one thing you can do for every bedroom that's not expensive is that you get a white comforter or a white duvet cover. And you're going to say, wow, white, it's just going to be so boring. Well, no, because as you can see, we add little pops of coordinated color back in. So I always prefer white or a solid light color. It doesn't have to be only white if it doesn't go with your room. It could be a light gray. It could even be a light blue. Like, that's not the critical part. The critical part is that it has no pattern. Anything with a pattern is going to immediately attract your eye. And while we're on the topic of no TVs, do you see why we don't want a TV in the room? Number one, it's ugly. TVs are not aesthetically pleasing. And when you have, this is just a little TV, most of the people I encounter have these huge honking TVs. And so visually, they are this huge black box. And they just take up so much visual space that I just don't think it sets the right tone for the bedroom either. So for the short period, that you're going to have your house listed with me, let's do it without the TV. It just creates this peaceful, calm oasis. One of the things we had talked about earlier was the feeling, and the feeling of the master bedroom is really, really important, because that's where people imagine themselves. So I love all the pillows, and we're going to show you another master bedroom. And again, nobody would realistically sell their house looking like the left, but just by rearranging the furniture, bumping up the size of the lights, changing out the artwork, like it really makes a big difference as to the overall impression of calm, relaxation, just much more appealing on every level. Okay, another master bedroom. Let's just look at what they've done here. This is very imaginable. Like, I can totally see this room in real life. I'm sure I've seen it. The dark patterned bedding, we know that has to go. The candlestick lamps are fine, but the patterned shade just reduces the amount of light. So they've changed those out for white. Terrific. The side tables are the same. They've added bedding and the 47 pillows, but it just, oh, and the other thing they've changed out is the ceiling fan. The light is more contemporary, less of those tulip glass lights, and something more contemporary. So still has the same carpet on the same basic pieces of furniture, but it just looks so much more pulled together. And you can imagine this being the color story in other rooms where you're bringing in a little bit of that gray and white and a little bit of mustard and a little bit of charcoal, and maybe it's going to be in other rooms as well. But that's a very, very appealing transformation. Now, in terms of all bedrooms, remember we talked about just swapping out patterns for white and making sure that all the surfaces are cleared. I don't imagine many of us have a crib room, but it just, this is a big transformation for sure. I love actually doing second and third bedrooms because they're little and you can have a little bit more fun with them, right? Like, this is not exactly just a staging. We've obviously painted, but again, it's bringing everything together in the same color story and harmonizing. I really enjoy staging children's bedrooms because you can have a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of play in them, and it still does the job. So by reorienting the bed, I see this often. I see beds up against the wall, and I almost never want the bed up against the wall like that. We just want to pull it out so that we can see that there's room to walk around it. And the mishmash of other furniture obviously has been taken out of the room. And it's just very, very clean lines, clean design, neutral and appealing. See, even though you might, obviously we're editing out all the furniture on the left. As a buyer, you can see yourself using that room now, where the way it was before, it's very difficult to get past the clutter and the dinginess of it, right? Okay, so this is one of the pointers that we covered last week in a bit more depth, but remember we talked about restoring the function. In this case, I often see homes, especially of empty nesters, where one or more of the bedrooms has been taken over as an office or another TV room or a guest bedroom with a pull-out couch or whatever. Whenever possible, we want to restore it back to a bedroom, like I mentioned. In this case, this is an air bed on milk cartons with a king-size sheet draped over it to create a bed skirt, and then a nice duvet. It doesn't have a headboard. It has some big pillows, and we just use the existing cedar chest and kind of redecorated a bit and just pulled it all in. Like, get past the red. The red was a choice based on our marketing, but this could be any other color. It could be dark gray, it could be dark blue, or whatever that accent color is. But you can see the neutral bedding just creates this spaciousness. And most office furniture and most office chairs are ugly. They're functional, they're not aesthetic. So the same curtain, the same light, the same room, and yet it's just so much more appealing. So make sure, whenever possible, we've got the restored function. Okay, bathrooms. Bathrooms are another easy room that you can stage yourself. Pattern shower curtains, you already know what I'm going to say. No, we want a white shower curtain, white fluffy spa towels, no carpets on the floors. And if you have that inexpensive strip lighting that looks like Hollywood lights, you know, 5 or 6 just globes, that's an easy way to change the aesthetic and really bump it up to something much more modern. Okay, so I really like all of your daily essentials put underneath the cabinet. Nothing in the shower stall, even no loofah, no razor, no shampoo, nothing, because this is the most intimate room in the home in a way, and we do not want any reminders that bodily functions occur in this room. Okay, it just has to be spick and span clean and very, very light and bright. So here's a transformation where, and again, I cannot believe how many pictures I see online with shampoo bottles and stuff. I don't need to know that you use Prel. I just need to see it clean and light and bright, and you can just see how much more appealing the picture on the right is. It needs to be like clinically sterile. That's the way we want to look at bathrooms. Okay, there's none of this other stuff. So have a look there. I really like a little bit of we always put fake succulents in bathrooms. They just seem to go together, along with the apothecary jars of puffs and maybe little soaps or whatever. I love to have a little bit of a potted succulent somewhere in the room. And I think that's very appealing. Okay, we're getting near the end. So we want to make sure that wherever we are in this home, that we are pulling down heavy curtains, we're rolling up area rugs unless they are very light and neutral, we're rearranging furniture. Most of the time that means heavy editing, and that we're making sure that unnecessary pieces are put away, are packed away, so that we can just increase the overall span. So here's a little final product I want to show you. There's our bottles. Okay, so if you were to play that a couple of times, you would see many of the tricks and tips that I've already shared with you applied by a professional stager in a property that we got a very, very pleasing price for. Okay, so that was really kind of the final exam of staging 101. And we cover this more in depth in our best renovations for return on investment. But here are some things that are beyond really the scope of just staging, but they are still very effective, low cost improvements that you can make. Okay. And then, oh, I think we just did this, sorry. And then here's our part 2. Okay, so all of this is going to really enhance the saleability of your property, and it doesn't really, you know, fit in with the staging, but I just wanted you to see that it's part of a larger preparation for the property. Do you have to do this? No, you do not have to do this. We can still sell homes even without it staged or the bathtub reglazed. Of course we can sell homes, but where you're going to take the hit is one of those 2 important areas. It's either going to take longer to sell while we find that unicorn buyer who's able to imagine themselves in a cluttered or disrepaired home, or it's going to mean that somebody says we want a a discount because this is a fixer-upper. So the goal is to eliminate either of those two scenarios so that it's an easy sale, a quick sale, and a sale at a price that you agree with. Okay, so we've done the staging. I have a few minutes if you want to type in any questions, and while you're doing that, I just want to tell you about how we're encouraging people to share the good news of our staging webinars and other webinar offers by letting their friends know. This is kind of a funny time that we're in, so we appreciate all the help that we can get in spreading the word about what we do and our services, okay? So please let them know, and we're happy to put your name in a draw for a beautiful barbecue basket. We also have these coming up in the coming weeks and months, so please take a look at those and sign up if you've not been before, or even if you have and you want a refresher course, sign up, and even better, bring a friend. We also do condo tours, which is a fun way of going and looking at what's available in the market centers that we focus our attention on: Markham, Richmond Hill, Aurora, Thornhill. We want to show you usually between 6 and 10, 8 and 10 different units that are currently available, and I take you through the whole buying a condo process, okay? So it's a great way for me to keep my eye on the market so that I can really be a local expert, and it's a great way for you to gather market knowledge, okay? So that when the time is right, whenever that is, maybe it's never, but you'll know at least, you know, a lot more than the average person who buys a condo. We also do our online property evaluations. These are things that we can do remotely, and we'll give you a record of both what has sold, what's currently for sale, and also what the expected trend is. I have to tell you that I know the newspapers are doom and gloom, but I just don't see it. I don't see it in York region. We still continue to attract a ton of people who are moving up and getting better value for their homes. So homes are selling quickly for top dollar. We're seeing a lot of over asking sales, especially in Markham, where about 20% of those sales are over asking. So it is actually a very, very good time to consider selling because interest rates are low. There are still serious buyers who have looked around their condo and said to themselves, no, we got to get out of here. We need a backyard for the kids. So there are lots and lots of move-up buyers who are actively searching for properties. And then, of course, we have our 30-day decluttering challenge. So this is a way to help you over the course of a month shed some of your unwanted items and get yourself organized in small little 20-25-minute tasks over the course of a month. Okay, so all of these are always no cost, no obligation. It's really about us helping our base of clients to really get informed about their options in the market. And then we have our social group on Facebook, the S.M.A.R.T Social Connection Group. We were doing bingo on Saturdays until I realized that this was going to be a very good way for me to go broke. These bingo tournaments are costing me an arm and a leg. And also, I'm not sure that Saturday is the best for everyone, so I'm going to send out a poll about that. But please join us on Facebook if you participate already. And we always post funny, encouraging, relevant information. Okay, it's just nice to know we're not alone. It still feels kind of lonely out here some days. So we do have just a few minutes. If you would like to ask a question and post it in the chat box, let's hear about that now. Let's see if I can open it up. We have a chat question. How do you feel about a flat screen TV in the principal bedroom if it's mounted on the wall so they are quite recessed, and if the black, okay, with the surrounding furniture? Yeah, I mean, the black big screen TV in the master bedroom, sometimes it just has to stay. And what's really funny is my photographer, he photoshops a picture of like some kind of tropical island in it or something. So we don't ever show it as a total black screen. I'm just saying in our ideal world, if I could wave a wand, but a lot of those big TVs that are mounted to the wall, that's a huge deal to take them down and get rid of the brackets and fill in the holes and then repaint the wall. I get it. So if we have to work with that, we will. But I, again, was giving you the best case scenario. Okay. Any other questions? I have to tell you, I really enjoy the visual challenge of staging rooms. And it's been a lot of fun for me to go visit with people and just give them, I go with a roll of green painter's tape and all the things that I think they should remove from the space. I just go around and I put green tape on it. Green for go. and the things that are remaining, sometimes we shuffle them around. And like I said in the one picture where we brought a couch in from a totally different room, and it really worked in that space. So I don't want you to be afraid that we're going to just tell you to put everything in a shipping container. Very rarely do we do that. Most of the time it's just an editing, and then we bring in more contemporary accessories. Okay. You're welcome. Staging a finished basement. Okay. Yes. The basement is a big selling feature if it's a finished basement. It's really attractive as overflow living space for people. So lots of times our basements just become the dumping grounds. But as a finished basement, we want to treat it almost like another little like family room, right? Or a living room. So we want to show the function of it. It's okay if you've got exercise equipment in one corner or whatever, like it is the basement, but we want to make sure that it's decluttered. The bookshelves, if there's bookshelves there, we try to stage those artfully. Again, most of the time it's just a very heavy editing process, and then we just move things around so that people can get through no problem. But it's probably pretty low on the priority list. We really, really want to focus on the main floor and the family bedroom. Everything else is kind of gravy. Okay, so a finished basement, if we can put a couple of chairs, lots of times we'll take the chairs from the upstairs and we'll put them in the basement if we don't have any other furniture. Is your problem too much furniture or too little? Like that's kind of what we have to address. But we had a house that we sold up in Aurora that had a beautiful, like a home theater in it. And so we wanted to make sure that we actually emphasize that as like a family games room. So in one corner, we had just a couple of little chairs and a table with like a board game out. And another, we had the big sofa for watching the videos or the movies on the big screen. And then over there, we had a little bit of a space where there was some guitars and an amp, like a little jam corner. So again, it's just showing the functionality of the different zones of the basement. Okay. You can totally do your kitchen and your bathroom yourself, and you can go a far way in staging even your bedroom by rearranging the furniture, editing out the things that aren't going to be there, and getting yourself some white linens for $59 at you know, the department stores, wherever it is, you know. So any other questions? Walmart, yes, that was the word I was looking for. Walmart, $59 for the white duvet, and we just use it for the staging. They have a 90-day return policy. We don't use it. We just lay it on for the photos. So, any other questions? Okay, well, Melissa does, so does Winners and HomeSense. Well, they have a 30-day return policy unless you register. But we do a lot of returns to Winners. So yes, I love Winners. Melissa's going to be sending this to you along with some other great resources. She is the engine behind all this, so we thank her for all her hard work. I thank you for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day. And if you have questions that occur to you after, like, you know, feel free to reach out. and let me know. I'm happy to answer them. Or if you want me to come over and just give you my realtor's eye view as to the things you could be doing before you get ready to sell your house, I'm happy to do that as well. Like I said, I'll come over with my roll of green tape, okay? My mask and my green tape. Okie dokie. Well, thank you. We've gone over time, so I have to toddle off. Thank you for being here, and please follow up with any questions, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, thank you so much.